Hey, this is Brian Crecente. I'm in Cologne, Germany at GDC Europe, and we're here in front of the Crytek booth where we had a chance to play Crysis 3 single player, the first time ever, and a chance to speak with some folks over at Crytek about the technology and the game. Is this the first time you've shown the game to the public?
Yes, here at GDC we have the single player game running here on our booth, and at Gamescom we're going to have a large space with the multiplayer open to play for everybody.
Now, are you nervous at all that this will be the first chance that a lot of people have to go hands-on with the game?
We're pretty excited actually. I mean, I think there's some big changes from Crysis 2 to Crysis 3. On the technology side, we've really pushed the high end. So people will be playing the PC version at the highest possible settings, and I think they're going to be blown away by what the game looks like. But also we've had, I guess the team have really learned their art from working on Crysis 1 and Crysis 2,
right.
And now they've started to introduce some really interesting new gameplay ideas, like the bow, for example, which makes the game very different to play, a lot more fun.
So Crysis has for a long time been sort of the benchmark. When people are out there building their computers, they often will figure out, okay, will this computer play Crysis or Crysis 2? Is that a question they'll be asking themselves for Crysis 3?
Well, I mean, I think what we did in Crysis 2 was, with Cryengine 3, was a massive amount of optimization. Because we were aiming at the consoles as target platforms, we didn't dumb the game down. And a lot of people kind of believe we did. Actually, what we did was take those high-end features and optimize them so they would run on console. So having got to that point, now we're back into the phase where we can add more stuff in. So for the high-end PC, it really is going to be benchmark setting again. I mean, there's no other game that's going to be pushing hardware as hard early next year. So, I mean, people will be able to run it on kind of the same spec machine they ran Crysis 2. So it doesn't need a super machine, but if you have one, and if you want to go and get one, then everything that we're pushing on Crysis 3 will really, really turn that machine off. So in Crysis 2, it's very much you were in trouble and there was a lot of bad guys coming to get you. In Crysis 3, we give the player a hell of a lot of power, and then they can go and kind of have their revenge, and the hunted becomes the hunter.
One of the things I loved about Crysis 2 was that the design was sort of this really cool mixture of linear and sandbox.
We're pushing the sandbox further, and we're having more sandbox elements there, because that was where everyone was having the most fun. There was certainly a challenge in Crysis 2 to fit those kind of big action bubble areas in. We call them action bubbles, these kind of locations where you're suddenly using your tactics and figuring out how to fight. It was a technical challenge to have them big enough and sandboxy enough, but we've been doing a lot of work on improving that so we can have more sandbox gameplay, larger environments. There's more stuff. It's less clean, so it's a lot easier to go through, hide and use stealth. Or pick different routes through to the enemy. So we hope there's a lot more sandbox gameplay for the players in Crysis 3.
Crysis 3, obviously an important thing, but also Cryengine 3. Do you feel that is Crysis 3 sort of a vehicle to help sort of proselytize the Cryengine 3?
Yeah, I mean, it's more than that, actually. I mean, Cryengine wouldn't be the engine it is without a really, really good game pushing it. So, it's always been vital to us for any technology that we're making, that we start with, we're going to build a game with this and we're going to make this a benchmark game, and we're going to push some things in this game that no one else has done before, and then that means we're going to have to build some pretty good technology to go with that. So it's always been that kind of relationship between the game and the engine. And then, yes, you're absolutely right. When the game comes out and shows people what can be achieved with it, it's a fantastic advert for the technology behind it. And it takes good art direction and a great team and some time. But yeah, it certainly helps to show people what you can achieve with the engine. There's really nothing that we show in Crysis 3 that isn't given over to our licensees, and even given away for free. Once Crysis 3 releases, we'll put all these new features into our free SDK, and then anyone can play with it and make games with it.
It's interesting, I've talked to you guys in the past. Maybe people don't realize this, but you have a whole group. I think it's its own division maybe that does non-gaming stuff with the engine.
Yeah. What's currently being called Building 9. We like that. It is technically it's our 9th studio, so I suppose it could be Building 9. But somehow this internet thing has built up that we've got a secret base. We have a division in Orlando in Florida. They work on serious games and non-gaming applications, non-entertainment. I mean, the reason we did that is because it's a very specialist field.
Yeah.
It's not something that Crytek is kind of known for. the Crytek gaming side doesn't appeal to that market. They think we're all, you know, having too much fun to work with them. So we set this up very separately to just deal with that market by itself.
And they do, I know they probably do a lot of things, but they do some military stuff, military training.
I couldn't possibly talk about the secrets in Building 9.
Will there be, like, people will drop down from the ceiling?
Exactly, yeah.
We'll all be dead. Profit will materialize.
That's right.
So, Wii U, have you guys had any thoughts or discussion?
Yeah, I mean, it's working, the engine's working on Wii U right now. We have a couple of licensees, one very, very big project aiming at using Cryengine on Wii U. Very different style. Obviously on Wii U, the games aren't necessarily all the big kind of gritty games. You want to do something a bit different. So we're very excited with the partner that we're working with there on what they're going to do on Wii U. And yeah, it's a good little machine.
You and I should know this, but Crysis 3, what have you guys said either way?
Crysis 3 is not going to be on Wii U.
So why not? I mean, it's, again, you guys can use it as a way to show people what you can do.
Timing's probably the biggest issue there. I mean, the engine is running now, but we're so close to releasing Crysis 3, we couldn't port the whole thing across now, you know, and make it work for that platform. Very different platform in terms of the way you interact with it.
Right.
There's a lot of different things you want to do for it. So just in timing, it didn't quite fit with Crysis 3. Here our focus is on the tech.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So what we're really trying to showcase here is how awesome the tech is and how the tech then feeds into the gameplay. That, you know, we've always said that, you know, there's other game engines out there, but you would never be able to build any of our games on another game engine. Because we push the technology that we build, we do things with it that just aren't possible on other engines. We feel confident we could build almost any other game with our engine, but you couldn't build Crysis on anything other than Cryengine. And we want people to take that away and realize that the speed of iteration, the quality of the graphics that you have, you know, it's real time all the time, which now, you know, only the other guys are starting to play with. We've been real time all the time since, you know, early 2000s. And that allows us to make, you know, so much more content and so much more polish.
Right.
That's how we get the game to where we are. So people will be able to play Crysis here, they'll be able to see how we made Crysis, and they'll be able to even play with our SDK and see how easy it is to make games themselves.